All right, hi everybody. My name is Beth Putala, and I am the Career Education Counselor at Central Westmoreland Career and Technology Center in Westmoreland County. Been to the ILC for numerous years, and we are going to embrace this new type of presentation for you guys. You can see from the screen, I have my master's degree in counseling, K to 12, and I work with 10 sending school districts within our CTC. So I know I am seeing some of the attendees, and some of you I definitely know in person. So welcome, and now back over to Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lang. I'm the K through 12 Career and College Readiness Counselor for the Hempfield Area School District in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. I am also the Cyber Coordinator 6 through 12. So as you know, we have a lot of students who are moving to our cyber platforms. I'll go over a little bit of information just about some of my roles, how we collect evidence here for career readiness, as well as how we communicate with students and parents through this future virtual platform. I also have my master's degree in school counseling as well as a BCIT certification. My undergraduate degree is actually in HR, and I served 10 years in the military prior to becoming an educator. So do have a unique background. I think it helps me, use all those tools for all the positions that I have here at Hempfield. So I'll turn it back over to Beth.
All right, so as we go through today, what we are going to be looking at, what our agenda is. So we will be talking about the CWCTC and our sending schools along with our parents. Sarah's going to address some online Google Classroom information. How are we connecting with students in person and virtually? We're also going to discuss the K-12 guidance plan. I know for those of you who are counselors that are in this session, that is definitely a key component of the school year. And then we'll also be looking at the CTC side, including our recruitment as well. So as we do go through today, we do have two computers going. We will have the question and answer box open. So as we are speaking, if you do have a question, one of us may address that as we are talking, or we will definitely be discussing those items at the end of today's presentation. One of the key things that I think that we just got to remember is that even though we're talking about something today, everything can change tomorrow. Definitely in the state of Pennsylvania. So we are going to be discussing things that we're currently in place that our schools are going to go ahead and be using, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to work in the next couple of weeks. So on my end with Central Westmoreland and our 10 sending school districts, to say the first quarter has been chaotic is an understatement. We definitely have the main constant of we have students every single day in our classroom. Those students are coming from 10 different buildings. Some days we know who's showing up, some days we don't know who is showing up. We've definitely tried to work with our high schools and see what type of transportation needs there were, who was going to be total hybrid, and that's been a little bit on the difficult side. But with our teachers in the classroom, we are using Google Classroom. The majority of our sending schools are doing that as well. We have GoPro technology within our classrooms as well. Some of our 30 plus teachers are using that on a regular basis. Some of our other teachers are still a little skittish on that. So it is a work in progress. We are using Zoom and Google Meets. We're doing asynchronous and synchronous learning at the same time. And different teachers are using what works best for them. So I can't say out of our 23 classrooms that we are all doing everything the same, and that's okay because different teachers have different styles. So for those of you who are on in this presentation, you know what you're using, maybe touch base and tell us in the question and answer, or even I guess in the chat, what you're doing that has been definitely successful for you. And then if you have a tip for somebody, please include that as well. One of our teachers I know within the beginning of our school year, she is our painting and restoration teacher. What she did, because she knew that there was going to be multiple online learners, and with being at the tech school, how are we going to get that information to them? She actually sent a kit home to the students. Both the student and the parent had to agree to having the kit in their house. They agreed to how it was supposed to be used and the directions that were to be followed. And so far, that is definitely working for her. And she has found that that has been very positive with that. Some of our teachers, we have special education teachers who are in the classroom on a regular basis with us. And the key thing with our building, and I don't know how this is working in all the CTCs, but our building is open 5 days a week. So those 5 days, we could have students from all 10 school districts. We could have them for 3 school districts. So for instance, today's Wednesday, we have a lot of schools that are closed, that are doing their cleaning on it today. So we just kind of go with the flow and make sure that things are working to the best of our ability. In terms of working with our parents, we are definitely making more teacher phone calls this year. All calls to parents are going out, and we're explaining, you know, something like with open house that happened Monday night. We were supposed to have open house, but that got canceled. So we wanted to remind parents not to show up at our buildings. We are sending home mailings. We are using the computers as well. We sent home information for the students to be able to get into their Skyware account so that the parents would be able to do those things. Probably our biggest issue with phone calls and phone calls coming into our building are the attendance issues. And that could be something, if people have a question about that at the end, you know, how is your CTC tracking attendance? Do you see something working? Are you still going backwards and changing attendance within each of the days within the programs? So what is working and what is not? Truly, that goes back to each of our individual teachers. We have a great professional learning climate within our school building right now. We are doing professional development where we're bringing small groups of teachers together for about 45 minutes to an hour in the morning every couple weeks, where the teachers can sit down and talk and explain how they're doing certain things. We have a teacher Google Classroom where teachers can share videos, where teachers have the ability to showcase what they're doing and what has worked. And then when we go and talk to our parents, we have a lot of positive parents right now. They are doing their best at home. Our parents are making sure that they're asking questions. We've definitely had a handful of disgruntled parents as well, and that's going to be on a case by case. But as always, one of our key components is that we have to have open communication, and we have to make sure that we are documenting things as well. So that's one of the key things. Our teachers, you know, if you're given an assignment, make sure that you've documented the information. How many times have you contacted them? Has there been special ed contact? Has there been guidance contact as well? So that we can cover all of our bases when grades come out. So I'm going to hand some slides over to Sarah right now. Sarah in Hempfield School District is one of our attending school districts, and she's going to discuss how they are doing things specifically within the high school here.
All right, so Hempfield area right now is on a hybrid schedule, meaning that our kids are on an A-B schedule. So they're assigned a day, whether it be A or B, and they come that every other day. But they are learning 5 days a week, because on that day off, they are expected to get into their Google Classroom. We have a technology called LessonBot that runs live streams through the classroom so that teachers can push that link out through their Google Classroom. So students should be viewing all, if not most, of their classes live every single day, following the same exact schedule that they are in the building. So there really isn't much change for them as far as teachers, as far as really anything. Their subjects haven't changed if they decided to, you know, stay at home. So that's our synchronous program, which we call HACA, or the Hempfield Area Cyber Academy. And so that we also have an asynchronous program called Edgenuity, which I know some of you are familiar with through a consortium that we belong to through Seneca Valley School District. So we have about 139 students doing Edgenuity. We have a bunch of students doing the blended schedule or the hybrid schedule. And then just recently we got numbers for our full-time cyber, which are running through the Google Classroom. And that's like about 560 students that we lost. Not lost, we kept actually. We kept them, but they're just now at home outside of the building, learning 5 days a week. So we do have plenty of options for learning in this environment at Hempfield. I think we are pretty well off. Obviously, it's not my effort to do all of that. There was plenty of planning over the summertime that I was involved in on a committee, as well as our technology department. Our teachers obviously run the program through their own Google Classrooms. So there isn't much management that way, which is nice. And then through the Edgenuity program, excuse me, I run that program. All right, so we've tried to come up with some creative ways on getting messages out to students. And one of those ways is by connecting to them with Google Meets. Obviously, we could do that live. Or we could do a Meet video, which is basically recording that Meet by yourself and then pushing it out through that way. So I have a link here just to show you an example of my video. I know that students and parents have been overwhelmed with emails and phone calls and reminds and text messages from our school district. And that's one thing that we're hearing a lot of. Not only are the teachers reaching out to the students through their emails and reminds, they're reaching out to the parents, and it's just one communication after another. I send emails as well, but most of those include some kind of video so that the students can watch that. So I was going to try and play this video here, and hopefully it just pops up with no regard here. Good. So this is one of the videos that I send my kids as a tool for them, you know, to help them through the Edgenuity platform, because we know that we have all different types of learners. And while we do have instructions that are, you know, handwritten, and Edgenuity itself, for example, this program, it has its own help center. It has a lot of different things that the students can use for assistance. But I feel like for specific issues that I'm getting a lot of, it's nice to send out a video so that they can see exactly what to do during that time. So this video is actually just explaining to them what the communication tools in Edgenuity look like. So I'll just play just a second there. I really don't like to hear my voice on the video, but I'll play just a minute here, and then you guys can get a good idea or a sense of what these videos look like.
It's Ms. Lang. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the communication tools and Edgenuity. The most number one important thing to remember when you are in a asynchronous program is that you are communicating with your teachers. So I know that the direct instruction is provided through the videos and the assignments through the Edgenuity platform, but those concepts have a teacher associated with them. So if you are struggling with some of the material or staying on track, you could always reach out to your teacher. I want to make sure that you know how to do that in Edgenuity. And then there are some announcements that are being sent out to you via the platform as well, and I wanted to make sure that you could all access those and knew where they were. So I'm going to share my screen with you just to give you a little overview of those tools. So if you look here, I do have 2 classes. I'm logged into my Edgenuity platform as a student here. I can see that I have my business and personal law class, and I have.
All right, so I'm not gonna put you through that again, so, or any longer, excuse me. But that video is basically just helping them navigate the actual platform. Like I said, we all know that we have different learners, and this is a really great tool to actually visualize what they're supposed to be doing on their side. I've also sent videos similarly to parents as well to help explain our progress reports. And I actually walk through the progress report on that shared screen. So they do find that helpful. I know some of our principals are also doing the same thing through the Remind app. Instead of like writing a long letter that they have to have attached and they have to open and then they have to read the whole letter, they actually just post a video of themselves on the Remind, and it's just, you know, the parents can watch it whenever they want to. And it is a really helpful tool for us. One of the other things, we obviously have been using Google Classroom for a long time here at Hempfield. Our teachers are real savvy with it. And we have parent reports that come with, or I'm sorry, guardian summaries, excuse me, that come with our Google Classroom so that parents know what students are missing in those classrooms. But the one thing that I found, because I have a Google Classroom set up for my Edgenuity students, just for a resource page so that they could go on there if they're struggling and look at videos of me explaining certain things, or they could read text, whatever that is. The guardian summaries only show what that student is missing. And for me, there wasn't really anything missing. So the parents can't really access that Google Classroom as a student, so they can't see all that resource material. So what I did was I actually created a separate resource tool for parents and included them on that. And that was a Google site. So if you've never used Google Sites before, it's just a way that you could develop a website. And you could restrict who has access to that website, or you could open it up to the public. And I chose obviously to restrict that to the students or to the parents that I had. So they'll just click on the link if they want to go on there. If they're trying to, sorry, my slide advanced here. If they're trying to, you know, be helpful or help participate in their child's learning, this is a really good tool. And for some reason, I cannot click on this link, so let me try again. Okay. Sorry, technical difficulties, of course. All right, so you can see that this is, sorry, my Google site here. This is the Edgenuity resource page for student or for parents. So it has a quick welcome video for parents talking about some key things to keep in mind when they're talking about their students, you know, performance and Edgenuity. It also has all of those helpful resources that I list on the Google Classroom for the students, but now they can access it through here. So I add to this pretty frequently just based on some of the questions. Edgenuity is a platform we've used for a while now. However, this is the year that we have the most participants in the asynchronous learning platform. So, and then you can see what it looks like when you share to your parents. You can just restrict, you know, whoever's in that classroom. Once you hit the share button, it's going to ask if you want to just share it, the link to, you know, a restricted amount of users, or if you wanted to open that up. So you can see here what the published site here looks like. So it's just like a regular website. I added just a separate tab so that they have the 9-week indicators and they know when that is. So it's been really helpful for me just to be able to communicate that way. Okay, I'm gonna go back to all right.
All right, so our next part is, you know, just counseling in the virtual world. I know some of you who are in this presentation are counselors in the homeschool districts. Some of you are also counselors at the CTCs. So what are we doing as a counselor in the CTC world? So within our actual school building at Central Westmoreland, the two other counselors, they are having face-to-face meetings with the students. We are also doing emails. We haven't done as many of the Zoom meets with our students because we do have them in our classrooms at the school. And what we were finding is if we can catch them when they're in the building, that does make things a lot easier. Within some of our school districts, we do have 2 schools that we're doing full-time. So we would see those students more regularly. We had a few school districts that were doing the hybrid. So we could have students there anywhere from 2 days a week to 5 days a week. And we had a couple that are now currently who are doing full-time virtual because of being in Westmoreland County and the number of cases that we do have. Our sending school counselors, when I did talk to them within the last couple of weeks, they're doing as well the variety pack. So I think, again, one of the key things to think about is that you have to do what is working for you and for your school building. So whether that is you having conversations when they're actually at the school, making phone calls. I do know that some of the schools don't have as high a percentage rate of kids actually coming into a counseling Zoom meeting. Some of the schools that are there, some of the schools aren't getting the kids to actually attend the Google Meets. So then when they come into the building, they try to tag them at that point in time as well. One of our key things, again, is just being able to communicate with everybody, and that is communicating with the parents, communicating with the home schools as well, and trying to remain consistent. With the consistency that we have in our building being open 5 days a week, that might be a little easier than some of the schools that are closed every Wednesday, or some of them that are closed every Friday that are there. So then within the CTC world, we have to also deal with our recruitment process. And this is what has been kind of on my agenda for the last few weeks, and it'll go until probably January. In terms of communicating with our sending schools for the next school year, it's a priority for the CTCs, but at the home schools, it is one of their priorities. We do have some contact with both our special education liaisons as well as our school counselors as to how are we going to do presentations. Are we going to be allowed to come into the school building and do tours? Are we going to have videos brought up? So in terms of working for me, and I know on when I see the participant list, there are a couple other counselors from my local areas. So if you guys want to include anything in the chat or questions, please feel free to tell us what's working in your school as well, so that we can make sure that we are communicating more. But in terms of presentations for my 9th graders, what I will be doing is trying to get into every one of my 10 school districts. At this point, I do believe I should be allowed into at least 8 or 9 of them. I have one school that we're not sure I will be able to get in. And what we are doing is looking at whether I need to be there for 1 full day or I will be there for 2 full days, so that I see their different groups in terms of group A and group B, or will I just do the group A and the other students are online at the same time? So that is just going to be a work in process for us. In terms of touring, right now I'm working with new administration. We are hoping that at some point, maybe this school year, that we are going to get in the building, possibly with some smaller groups. In terms of the special ed students, we may bring them in as well into our school. We are just beginning to work with our local workforce investment board, so that we can create a short video for our individual classes as well as our full school classroom. And that is something that other CTCs are probably using at the time with different administration and the way our building is currently. We haven't done that in the last couple of years. Plus, we also know that in order for our numbers to stay constant and for students to really understand what is going on in the building, that we need to bring them in. So hopefully we'll have a process of presentations, video and tour, and then in the spring, whether or not we do an open house or not, will be up in the air. So on the next screen that I have, I recently just had a meeting with some of our local counselors and recruiters and social media personnel at kind of the western side. And I know Katie is one of our participants here, and she usually helps get that meeting together. So the first video or link that we have up here, this was from Parkway West. And I did talk to them prior to showing you guys this, but this is their 30-second commercial that they had a local company create for them. And she said, please feel free to use it, as well as showing you what they were able to do. And if you are able to get some ideas from it, please feel free to do that. So we'll show you guys that.
Our world has changed, and in this new economy, a university degree is no longer the guaranteed path towards financial success as it once was. Education, combined with technical training, gives you a competitive advantage for many high-demand occupations. Parkway West CTC provides education, free technical training, and preparation for the workforce. In the new economy, both education and technical skills are the new currency. Will you be ready?
So short, to the point, and like I did say, some of you at the CTCs or even at the high schools may have a graphic design program, a video production program, and you might be able to do that. They had hired out an agency. And then the second link was from Forbes Road, and this is Katie over there, and I know she is on. And we'll show you a couple, like, 30-second blurb of what she was doing in terms of working for their open house, because they do their open house earlier in the school year. All right, so on on the Forbes Road information piece, that was just music in the background. And then when we get to the end of the session, I'm going to kind of throw Katie on here. Maybe if Katie, you would be willing to talk about how you went through things, you can blurb in at the end when we're doing the question and answers. So that was just two things, and I'm sure we can find a lot more that is out there and be able to collaborate. And please keep in mind, I know with the Integrated Learning Conference, they always give us a listing of the attendees, and then that allows us to share information after the conferences. So artifacts in the pandemic, this has come up a lot with the counselors, the K-12 guidance plan, the 339 planning, and we know that we are still being mandated to collect them. So what had come up with some people in my school districts and that I've heard throughout the state, do we need to still collect artifacts? Absolutely. And that was the information that I was given yesterday. Are they changing the numbers on how many artifacts should be at the grade levels? That'll be a big no. And then what are we reporting at the state level on Future Ready? So I haven't heard any changes as to what will be on that actual Future Ready website as we go through this school year and we face uncertainties about what keystones are coming up and what PSSAs are coming up. How will attendance be looked at? I think you just have to go with what your school has normally been doing. And then if the state changes things or if superintendents are uncertain about how things are going to look on that Future Ready website, will there be things at the state level changed? There's no guarantee about that as well. And I know within the chat, we have a couple people, making comments about, working collaboratively with the different teachers within their buildings so that they have artifacts there. And then Sarah is actually going to show how Hempfield does their artifact management system.
Okay, so we use a Google Classroom system for our artifacts and obviously managing other programs too. It's really just the way that we've integrated most things here at Hempfield. So our classrooms are created for grades 3 through 12 by their graduation year. And so every year, a different set of teachers and the counselors are involved as well they're assigned the Google Classroom because we have teachers who are doing assignments in that classroom to collect artifacts. We also have counselor lessons in that classroom. So we make sure that everyone has access to it who needs it. And then that student always has that classroom in their platform 3 through 8, and then we close it off because it's a lot of artifacts. And then we open up a new one based on their graduation year, the HS graduation year classroom. And then they do their 9 through 11 artifacts that way as well. So I could pull up my classroom here, my classrooms, because I have several of them, a lot of them, and look at just something recently we've done with the 9th grade. So here's the 2024 classroom. As you can see, we have all of our, this is when they get to 9th grade. So we just ended their middle school classroom. Not ended it, we didn't archive it or anything. We just called it something different. It's called MS, Career Readiness 2024. So they'll have both of those in there. So when they get to high school, it starts with this Career Readiness 2024 classroom. We've designed all of the lessons based on the different standards, the career education and work standards. And basically there's a ton of them in here. So the students actually get to kind of pick what they do. So if they've done something, you know, within, you know, one of these areas here, they might just go in on their own, like did a college visit or something like that. They might go in on their own and actually just fill that out there. But some of these things like the SMART goal lesson, we are really fortunate here at Hempfield to have all of our freshmen in what's called a freshman seminar class. So all of our freshmen go through that class and they actually knock off right away like 3 to 4 artifacts in that class alone. Plus we have counselors coming into the classroom during their time, and we assign different lessons. So I actually just did this one, this Miss Lang's workforce trends presentation last week, or no, 2 weeks ago, excuse me. And we were actually all at home at that time. We had actually closed our high school building because of our COVID cases. So I had done this virtually with all of the students live, which was really the first time ever doing something like that, which was really a cool thing. But we actually were able to do it live with the students who had actually logged on. We were having some trouble getting kids to log on during the times that we were off, but we had a lot of participation with these freshmen. Once we did that for the kids that couldn't log on, and obviously you see there's 33 out there that still need to complete the lesson, but we did a video recording, which is this link here, so that they could refer back to the lesson, along with the PowerPoint that I presented, and then along with the actual task, which we want them to do, which is actually complete the reflection here for their artifact. So once the kids go in there and they complete all of that, I actually just put it out here on top for the students so that they knew which lesson to look at, because sometimes the lessons can get overwhelming. But most of the lessons that are below here, and then I'll go in and reorganize it underneath each one of these standards, excuse me, once everybody turns it in. But most of these lessons here are teacher guided somehow. So they're either in another classroom doing that, or they're with the counselors doing that. I know me and another counselor have another lesson coming up next week with the freshmen, and then I'm in the 10th grade classes in December and in January. So by the time they actually hit their 11th grade year, our students pretty much have 8 or more artifacts. So, but what we are doing their 11th grade year for these last 2 classes that have come through, because they were kind of like hurry up and collect based on, you know, what we had to do to get them complete. What we do have this year established, and probably next year established, is that during their homeroom periods, we have 3 teachers assigned to go into homerooms and make sure our 11th graders all have 8 artifacts in their designated classroom, and that those artifacts are actually complete. So if you are doing a Google Classroom, you need to make sure that students aren't actually just turning in the assignment, that the assignment is actually complete. So that's their task, to go into the homerooms. actually look at each student's 8 artifacts, and then, check them off the list, make sure that they're complete for that requirement. So this is the way that we do our classrooms. You can see in my platform that I have a ton of classrooms, all kinds of graduation years in there. So I kind of touch base with mostly the high school and the middle school students, but our elementary counselors and our teachers at the elementary school through middle school, they do the bulk of the actual lessons for the artifact collection. So it works out really well for us because it would be very overwhelming if one person was in charge of that. So that's what we do with our classrooms here. I hope that helps everybody.
So I think you guys can see, like with Hempfield, they have had a very strong background of what they were doing with the Google Classrooms before all of this took place. So within each school district, there are different things happening. So like at one of my school districts, they actually use Microsoft Teams. The other school districts, they're using PA Career Zone to get all of their different types of artifacts in there. And with the PA Career Zone, and Kim, this could be even directed to you. I know you have something here in the chat. In terms of their elementary school counselors are the ones who are working with sometimes the computer teacher, sometimes the art teacher, sometimes an English teacher, a math teacher. So I think that it has to be spread out, like Sarah just said, in terms of it cannot right now just be the counselors collecting the artifacts. And I think as we've gotten better the last couple of years in determining what can count as an artifact, that we are able to meet the different types of artifacts that are required.
And I could add a little bit to Kim's question there. So Kim asked, what are the elementary teachers doing for distance learners? She asked, how are they collecting the artifacts for those elementary kids? So for our elementary kids in our buildings, they're actually there 5 days a week. So if they elected to do full-time cyber, they actually have designated teachers who are only doing cyber. So we didn't hire new teachers. We actually transferred teachers out of our buildings into another building to only do cyber for those elementary kids. So when obviously when they're in the building, it's easier to collect, but when they're not in the building, they're going to have the elementary school counselors, and I'm not sure that they did this yet, are going to have to collaborate with those cyber teachers so that they get into those classrooms and they make sure that those lessons are being presented to our cyber kids as well. And I don't think that has occurred yet. Really, this cyber program for elementary is run a lot different than our high school and middle school levels, because we build a schedule for a student in middle school and high school, and that schedule doesn't change. And since we have the lesson bot technology in the classroom, they're participating just as if they were in that classroom. Now at the elementary, it's a very specific cyber program. Like they are designed new cyber teachers. They don't necessarily have the same teachers that are in those buildings. So yes, there is a little bit more collaboration with those elementary teachers from our side.
And once we get through this last slide as well, if there are other people who are doing things for the elementary level, please kind of put something into the question and answer or into the chat so that you can give another idea for Kim. So the last thing here we're going to look at, and it kind of just wraps up everything, is, self-care. And as counselors, this is one of the things that I have been looking at a lot since the beginning of this school year is, the counselors, and there are some teachers and there are some administrators as well, that we're taking care of everybody in the building. They're getting the questions from the parents, the teachers, and the students, or even the administration is coming over into the office and asking those things. Making sure, how are you taking care of yourself? Or are you leaving the school building and actually leaving your work at home for at least 15 to 20 minutes? We are all fully aware that everyone is overwhelmed, and you might be putting in even more time than you have in the past. I know some of the teachers in my building aren't leaving the school till 4 or 5 o'clock because they're making phone calls, they're doing all of their paperwork there, they're sending out reminders, they're sending out text messages and doing all of those things. But if you don't separate yourself from the work, eventually it will catch up to you, and you have to make sure that you know, using some type of app to do mindfulness, going for a walk. Like here in Westmoreland County, it is actually beautiful outside today. So go outside and take a walk. Talk to somebody else in your building. You know, do you have pieces of information available to your teachers? Do you have an assistant program for your teachers? Do you have a SAP program still going for your students in the building? And then getting into the virtual realm, you know, I know homeschool districts that are doing home visits because they haven't had students come to school at all, nor have they signed or logged into the computers. So I know principals and counselors and deans of students who are knocking on doors.
Yeah, I've been to 5 home visits already with my Edgenuity program, and I probably had 5 total last year. So we have another probably 3 or 4 coming up in the next couple of weeks that we need to go out and check on.
So we're going to kind of stop there, and there are 2 questions that are already in the question and answer. So if there are other questions, please, or other comments, please type them in. So the first question was said on another note, when I have email student assignments, I include my cell number. And he has 90 or she has 90% participation with 35 students. So I think that is definitely positive. I think there will definitely be people who feel comfortable giving out a cell number, and there are other people who might not feel comfortable with that. So
I give mine out to parents. And the only reason why I started giving it out to parents was because when we ended in March, we all had to be home. And really it didn't, I mean, I would do *67 maybe at first to try and hide my number, but then realize like parents aren't going to answer my phone or their phone whenever it says restricted number in front of them. So at least I did call them by my number. And then so many of them I called because we have such a high participation in our virtual program that they all saved my phone number now as Miss Lang in their phone, and that's what they call now. But I don't mind doing that either. So that's a really good tip. And we also actually, at the high school level, we take kids' cell phone numbers. So like we have all of our students' cell phone numbers through each of the counselors. That was one of the things that they started doing last year. And it really is the best way to get a hold of a kid is to call their cell phone. So so that's really where we've had a lot of success too, is communicating that way, because parents are at work and sometimes they can't answer the phone to communicate. And sometimes you just need to communicate directly with the kid. And so we started asking them for their cell phone numbers, which has really helped out a lot in our department.
Okay, and then the other one is G. Decker, and
I can go back to the slide.
and Sarah's gonna go back to that slide, which we're thinking that he's talking about the Google Classroom, parent resource page, asynchronous. So we will review that as well.
I can't see my tabs. Okay.
So,
all right. So the Google Classroom, obviously, this is just where I hold all of my classrooms. So if you have used Google Classroom before, you'll know that this is the platform where it holds all of your classrooms that you've created or that you're a part of. Maybe somebody else created it and now you're a part of that. And then you could create and join and add new classrooms. I feel like that would be a whole other presentation if I went over how to create a Google Classroom. But if you wanted to reach out to me directly, you could do that as well. And I have been using Google Classroom for a long time. But some of the other tools that you might not be familiar with and might have been thrown out there are the sites. So sites is Google's way for you to make your own website. Basically, Google's so easy, and this is like what we use now. I could just type in sites in my browser and it brings up the whole platform. So if I wanted to go in and make a new, sorry, that didn't work. It just took me to the, if I wanted to make a new website, I would just go to the Google Sites, sign in, and then create a class based on maybe one of these templates, or just a blank one. The only one that I've used this year, I got rid of. Some other ones is the Edgenuity resource page for our parents so that they could access some of those resource tools. And then Meets, Google Meets, is how we do like a Zoom from our school. So if you were just to go to Google Meets, the way that I produce the videos are through Meets itself. So it says here to join or start a meeting. I never really name my meetings because I'm on there by myself. And then I actually just go to the Meet. It's going to ask me to log on to the Meet, which I'll join now. I don't have any participants on this Meet, and I don't want any participants on this Meet, so I'll just exit out of there. And then I just actually record the session right here. It produces the video, and then I could actually share my screen through the Present Now button. And it will show everybody what I'm trying to look at. And then once I'm done with this Meet and I exit out of here and I stop sharing and I do all of that, Google actually just sends you that Google Meet link, that recorded video, to your email address. So then you have the link, then you could push it out to whoever you want to from there. So it's a real easy process, but like I said, I feel like that would be a whole other Google presentation. So if you did want some more details on how to use any of those tools, please feel free to reach out to me.
And Sarah, and I've worked with Sarah for a couple years now, Sarah has this stuff down to a T and is like 1,000 times better at it than I am. So if you are new to Google Classrooms, I know when we started Google Classrooms in the fall at Central Westmoreland, it was really hard. We had some teachers who jumped on board with it and did great. We had other teachers who felt so lost and nervous about it. Everybody is trying to work a little bit stronger with it this year, and I think we have improved with it within our school, but it does take time, and certain schools haven't used this a lot. Other school districts within my 10 have been using it for a couple of years prior. So
I will say you will, once you get used to all of the Google platforms, if that's what you're using, and I know many of you use Microsoft or something else, but I think whatever you use, once you get used to actually doing it, there's very few ways you can screw it up, like is what I've found just from my own experience. I've never, before even coming here, I used it at my other school district as well. And I never did any formal Google training. I just kind of went in. I do think it's that user friendly that you could kind of go in there and navigate it yourself if you just spent a little bit of time. But once you actually do understand those tools and you start using them, they are like a lifesaver to me. Like I could literally just go on 5 seconds and do a Meet, push it out to 539 parents and students with a video that shows them how to do something, because I know people are starting to question something. So it really does save you so much time, and it really is such a great tool. No matter what platform you use, you should probably be diving into those things now. I think this is a good time for you to start using those things. All right, we have one more question from Paul. It says, I would like to use sites and we'll be looking for more help using it. So Paul, if you are interested, just email me. I'll put my email address in the chat box. And I think it is on our slides too, but, and I think you'll probably have access to that as well. But if you need any help or, ever want to chat about that, this was really my first time at Hempfield using the sites, but I've used it plenty of times before for other things. So.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Ladies, I have a comment that was made in the chat. I'm not sure if I know you addressed the what your elementary teachers are doing with your students, but another comment that came in at the elementary level is that they have a teddy bear that does virtual tours at companies and a website with activities for teachers to use. Oh. And the students are able to connect with that teddy bear more than just the counselors and teachers talking to them.
So is it an actual teddy bear? Or is it a virtual teddy bear? Are they all touching the teddy bear? I'm interested in finding more out about that. So
and that was from Colleen. Are we able to unmute Colleen?
Yes, hang on 1 second. Let me see if I can find her. Okay. All right, Colleen, you should be able to talk. You may have to unmute yourself.
Hi. My name's Colleen Prechtel. I am one of the career counselors through our Workforce Development Board. And we found that it was awfully hard for the elementary schools to complete their career activities because a lot of the companies have liability issues. And one way we found to work around it was we have an actual teddy bear. He's a 12-inch teddy bear that has lots of costumes depending on who or what company we're talking to. He gets dressed up in it. We take him into the classroom. We allow the students to dress him in the costumes. We'll be talking about if it's healthcare. Oh, what do you think the teddy bear wears for healthcare? And they'll dress him up in scrubs and stethoscope and surgical gowns, things like that. But then the teddy bear visits companies and does a virtual tour with the company representatives that the teacher can then bring up from the website to allow their students to see it. And then on that, we also have the benchmark activities marked out for teachers where they can just download them.
That's awesome. And what WIB are you with?
What, excuse me?
Did you say you were with the WIB? I'm sorry.
And enforce it.
Yes, Workforce Solutions for North
Oh,
Central Pennsylvania.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for
we're
sharing
fortunate enough they hire us. So
that. Yeah.
we work with all the schools in our counties. So
That's really cool. That's a neat program. I'm wondering, I know like now we're restricting people from coming into the buildings to some point. However, like some of our like normal programs that we have, like our career fair, we're still having that normally. It just looks a little different. We're having it through all the periods and only English classes could come so that we can ensure social distancing and all that stuff. But I like how that bear kind of does both virtual and he's also in person. That's pretty neat. So
Cool.
thank you.
All right, well, I think we have reached our time frame. And if anybody has any other comments or questions, please feel free to email one of us.